A warm welcome to TV Africa News and thank you for joining us. This is Africa Today. My name is Najuma Luima, but first are the headlines. Museveni pushes for access to EU market by African products. Experts discuss post-COVID recovery for startups, SMEs. Abiy Ahmed assures they are open for dialogue with TPLF. Kataka outsmart Pied Black Angels to qualify for the round of 16. A warm welcome once again. Now the news in detail. President Yoweri Museveni has asked the European Union to open up its market to Africa's food products and improve farmers' incomes for sustained food security on the continent. We have more. Museveni was on Tuesday meeting George Sanja, the State Secretary and Deputy Minister of International Development from the Kingdom of Norway at State House in Entebbe. The two leaders discussed various issues pertaining to food security and income generation and socio-economic transformation, among other things. Minister Sanja hailed Uganda's efforts to ensure that people have food and said Uganda is doing this very well. Minister Sanja said that it would be fantastic if that distortion, which was taught in schools, that the biggest producer of wheat and beef in the world was Argentina, was removed because things have changed drastically since then, with Argentina doing bad ever since its products were locked from the EU market. The president said Europe and Africa would greatly benefit if the market is opened up. Museveni said that with 2 rainy seasons a year, even without irrigation, Uganda grows food twice a year, which is quite unique. He added that in terms of food production, especially if Uganda adds irrigation, even now, Uganda has a surplus of maize, milk, sugar, and it's the biggest producers of bananas in the world. The Kampala resident City Commissioner Hudu Hussein has said that no motorcycle rider will be allowed to operate in the city when they are not registered with the Ministry of Works and Transport. Nalugo reports.
Speaking to journalists at the Uganda Media Center in Kampala, Hussein said that this issue is still under review on an administrative and technical level, but once complete, all riders who will fail to comply will have to vacate the city. The RCC called upon all riders to make sure that they register in their respective divisions, to have themselves identified numbers and avoid the dire consequences of being banned from operating in Kampala. Hussein said that no border rider will be allowed to operate without an approved reflector jacket or with a QR code approved by the Ministry of Works. According to the RCC, the registration process and subsequent issuing of state numbers is aimed at ironing out criminality and congestion in the city. He said that this is the plan of President Museveni, who has in previous speeches pointed out on how criminals use borders to commit crime. During the first COVID-19-induced lockdown in July 2020, KCCA revealed a list of 579 stages that Cabinet had approved for borders in the 5 divisions of Kampala. According to the list, Rubaga Division was allocated 179 stages, Nakawa 146, Machindi 136, Kawempe 89 and Central Division 32 stages.
Experts have urged small and medium-sized enterprises and startups to develop a resilience plan that will see them wither the new normal after the world was hit and affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, which changed the way of life. We have more. Speaking during the 4th Strategic Leadership Summit at Sheraton Hotel in Kampala on Wednesday, Charles Ochichi, the Executive Director of Enterprise Uganda, said that business owners must acknowledge the fact that crises happen every time but should develop mechanisms to learn out of them. Ochichi explained that SMEs and startups ought to use crises like COVID to embolden themselves as a way of ensuring resilience to withstand any challenges that may come, adding that crises will always happen. According to Angela Bagaine, a management consultant, a mindset change is key for SMEs and startups to build a resilience post the COVID pandemic. Bagaine said that the last 2 or 3 years have shown people that there is a need to go back to the drawing board to rethink strategies that will ensure resilience and put aside the fears created by the world. Juliet Thandi Mabena, the president Circle of Global Business in South Africa, emphasized the need to change with the tide if SMEs and startups are to stand a test of time. The Strategic Leadership Summit was organized by Human Capital International, and this year's edition was running under the theme Africa's Startups and SMEs in the Africa Continental Free Trade Area: retool, innovate, digitalize, and transform. Let's take a quick break. We will be right back. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has opened the door for negotiations with rebel groups in the country. He further stressed that there will be no negotiation against the national interests of Ethiopia.
Abiy was speaking to the members of parliament on Tuesday and further indicated that there have been no negotiations so far, but he is open for any future talks with the Tigrayan leaders. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed told the parliament that so far there have been no negotiation, but the fact that they haven't had negotiations doesn't mean there will be no negotiation altogether. The Premier added that negotiations dialogue doesn't mean the problem has been solved, but rather means seeing whether there is an alternative route to solve rid of a problem. Ethiopian federal forces have been fighting rebels loyal to the Tigray People's Liberation Front since November 2020. The country is also messed in a border war with Sudan and a dispute with Egypt and Khartoum over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam on the Blue Nile River.
Moving on, America's first newspaper dedicated to ending slavery is being resurrected and reimagined more than 2 centuries later. The revived version of Emancipator will push for racial justice and equity as the United States continues to grapple with its legacy of racism. The initiative is a joint effort by Boston University's Center for Anti-Racist Research and the Boston Globe's opinion team. The publication is expected to launch in the coming months and will feature online content, podcasts, video, and public events. Co-editors-in-chief Deborah Douglas and Amber Payne say they plan to highlight a wide range of content by respected scholars and seasoned journalists. They say the goal is to reframe the national conversation around racial injustice. That will be achieved partly by elevating the voice of the marginalized and minority communities and covering news events from their perspective. The initiative is funded by philanthropic and public donations, and the content will be available to the public for free. Away from that, cyclone Emnat overnight lashed the island nation of Madagascar, still reeling from the impact of another cyclone earlier this month, according to local authorities on Wednesday. We have more on this story. The cyclone made landfall around 10300 GMT just north of the southeastern district of Manakara, according to Fali Arichiana Fabian, a senior official of the National Risk Management Office, with no casualties reported yet. The storm, which passed just north of Indian Ocean islands of Mauritius and Reunion, had weakened slightly by the time it reached the eastern coast of Madagascar, but was still packing winds of around 100 kilometers per hour and gusts of 140 kilometers per hour, according to Meteo France. The cyclone is forecast to exit Madagascar Wednesday night, but authorities are warning of torrential rains. National weather forecaster Meteo Madagascar warned of strong gusts, heavy rain, and widespread flooding around the southern and southeastern districts. UN agencies had on Tuesday said they were preparing for the worst. Another storm cyclone Batsarai struck the island on February 5th, affecting some 270,000 people and claiming 121 lives. At the same time, some 21,000 people still remain displaced from when tropical storm Anna struck in late January. Another 5,000 were affected last week by tropical storm Dumako. Former Guinea-Bissau Prime Minister Domingos Assimio Pereira has been banned from leaving the country due to a judicial review in an investigation into an attempted coup in 2021, according to the Bissau Prosecutor's Office. Pereira is a member of parliament and leader of the former ruling PAIGC party, which has dominated political life in Guinea-Bissau since independence in 1974, was President Umaru Sissoco Embalo's opponent in the run-off presidential election in January 2020, the results of which he is contesting. Bakari Biaye, the country's public prosecutor, told the media on Wednesday that Domingos Assimio Pereira has been under judicial supervision since Tuesday. The Prosecutor General's office issued a statement on Tuesday evening announcing a measure of coercion against Mr. Pereira from Tuesday. Pereira is officially accused while he was Prime Minister of having allowed the disbursement of $5 million to Guinea-Bissau businessmen to pay debts owed to local banks, according to official sources. He is accused of not having consulted the National Assembly before granting the disbursement. He is also cited in an alleged coup attempt against President Embalo on 12 April 2021, according to the official document. A meeting scheduled for Monday at the National Assembly to consider the request to lift immunity was not held due to a lack of quorum, notably because of the absence of PAIGC MPs, according to parliamentary sources. Let's once again take a quick break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News at the Right to Know. In our business news today, supporters of Economic Freedom Fighters Party rallied in Cape Town to denounce South Africa's borrowing from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. The protesters had gathered outside the venue where Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana was delivering the annual budget speech.
Last July, South Africa's treasury announced that it had secured $4.3 billion from the IMF. The Economic Freedom Fighters Party denounced the lenders as economic terrorists. Floyd Shivambu, the party's deputy president, said that they will explain to the people when the National Treasury announced the loan from the World Bank when both the minister and the deputy minister of finance were not aware. Floyd added that there is a clique within National Treasury that is in control of National Treasury and even takes dangerous decisions such as taking loans from the World Bank and the IMF. In January, the country took $750 million from the World Bank to strengthen its pandemic response. The Economic Freedom Fighters Party has slammed the loans as genocide. South Africa's economic recovery will be difficult, according to the finance minister's warning on Wednesday.
In our health news today, South Africa's economic recovery battered by the COVID-19 pandemic, riots and endemic graft will be difficult, according to the finance minister of the continent's most industrialized economy, Enoch Godongwana. Enoch Godongwana said as he tabled the government's annual budget statement that the economic growth is projected to be 2.1% this year, dropping to an average of 1.8% over the next 3 years. Restrictions imposed last year and in 2020 to control the spread of COVID-19 brought most economic activity to a standstill and plunged millions of people into unemployment. With more than 3.6 million COVID-19 cases and nearly 99,000 fatalities, South Africa is the continent's hardest hit country. Godongwana said his budget was aimed at striking a critical balance between saving lives and livelihoods while supporting inclusive growth. South Africa was also rocked by riots in July last year, which wiped more than $3 billion off the economy's books after businesses were looted in the two most populous provinces of Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. And finally, in our sports news, a FIFA Big League outfit Kataka abandoned out visiting a West Nile regional side pied the Black Angels 2-0 in the Stanbic Uganda Cup at Mbale Municipal Stadium on Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022. We have more. Kataka joins rivals Mbale Heroes at the round of 16 stage. Mbale Heroes edged NAIC 1-0 at the San Siro playground courtesy of James Mukebezi's header in the 25th minute. Baba Joel Onziku and Swamad Okul scored Kataka's 2 goals, both in the opening half. Onziku netted that opener in the 25th minute, with Okul's strike coming 10 minutes later. Meanwhile, at the Nyariro Primary School grounds in Koboko, Tipsa continued with their smooth expedition, winning 201 over second tier club Chitara. Tipsa had shocked top flight side Arua Hill at the round of 64. At the Ababate Greenlight Stadium in Arua City, on Paraka eliminated Toro United 2-1. Gabriel Matota and Mohamed Shaban scored the goals for the Caterpillars. The round of 32 Uganda Cup matches continue on Friday, 25th February 2022 with a double-header at the MTN Omondi Stadium, Lugogo. Gaddafi takes on Police in the early kick-off at 1 p.m. before KCCA shall host Soltilo Bright Stars at 4 p.m. That was the news. Thank you for always keeping it TV Africa. Please do stay tuned. More programming coming your way.